Okay, good evening. Happy New Year. I'd like to call the first meeting of 2026 to order at 7 p.m. Welcome to the January 12th, 2026 City of Burlingame Planning Commission meeting. For all in attendance today, please note that this Planning Commission meeting is being held in person and using the Zoom webinar format. Please note that we are not accepting remote public comment during commission meetings. Agenda item number 2, roll call. The record should note that 5 members of the commission are present this evening. Commissioner Stay is absent. Agenda item number 3, request for AB 2249 remote participation. There are no commissioners participating remotely for AB 2249. Agenda item number 4, review of agenda. Staff, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, through the chair, staff would request that we take the study session item 233 Arundel Road, that's item 8A, as for review before the action items start, rather than having that applicant wait through all of, since there's only one item on the study session. So staff request that we move that up before action.
Thank you. That makes sense. Do we have any recusals? Let the record note that I'll be recusing from item 7A, 1406 Drake Avenue, because I live within 500 feet of that. Any other recusals? Agenda item number 5, public comments, non-agenda. Members of the public may speak about any item not on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to suggest an item for a future Planning Commission agenda may do so during the public comment period. The Ralph Brown Act, the state local agency open meeting law, prohibits the Planning Commission from acting on any matter that is not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on any item that is not on our agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to the next item. Agenda item number 6, consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine. They are acted on simultaneously unless separate discussion and/or action is requested by the applicant, a member of the public, or a commissioner prior to the time the commission votes on the motion to adopt. This evening, we have one item on the consent calendar, item 6A, approval of the December 8th, 2025 Planning Commission minutes. Would any member of the public or the Planning Commission like to pull this item for discussion? Seeing none, commissioners, any comments?
I'd just like to note I did not make that meeting, but I did review the meeting agenda and minutes and video.
Thanks, Commissioner Shores.
I will ditto Commissioner Shores' comments. I was also not there at December 8th, but I did read the minutes and watch the video.
Thank you, Commissioner Lowenthal. Any motions?
I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes.
The consent calendar?
Yes.
Thank you. Seconded by?
I'll second it.
Great. We have a motion by Commissioner Schmidt, a second by Commissioner. Any discussion on the motion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Lowenthal,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shores,
Aye.
Chair Haran.
Aye, the motion passes 5-0-0-1. So we'll go to item 8 right now.
Yes.
Great. So agenda item number 8, study session. Item 8A, 233 Arundel Road. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear the staff report, please?
Yes, this is an application for a major design review for a first and second story addition to a single unit dwelling at 233 Arundel Road, zoned R1. The subject property is an interior lot, contains a split level house with an attached garage. The applicant is proposing to construct an approximately 500 square foot first and second story addition at the rear of the house. The proposed addition is complementary to the architectural style of the Spanish colonial house, and while additions to split levels can be challenging, the design is assimilated at the rear with the massing of the house at the rear of the house. Staff currently does not have any suggested changes, and a summary of the materials is provided in your staff report, along with the design review guidelines for your reference. The applicant is here this evening if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward, state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project?
I'm sorry, the applicant is online.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I don't see a camera option, so I'll just go ahead and speak. I'm Elaine Lee, I'm the architect for the project. And as Catherine explained, this is an addition at the rear of the house, and we propose the changes to the street facade of the house are very minimal. So it's largely not perceptible from the street. And we tried. Hi. Am I back on?
We can hear you.
Okay. So I'm sorry. The addition was intended to be complementary to the style of the house. We tried hard to stay consistent with the architecture of the house. And we're just over the 590 square foot addition with a larger master suite at the second floor, and our goal was to improve the flow of the house, connection to the backyard, and make it more practical for the owners of the owner and their children in this house. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I do.
Mr. Schmid?
Yeah, I know that there's a really large tree right at the rear edge of the house. Do we know that that tree is going to be able to be kept and not be in the way of the second story, with the branches coming out on the second story addition?
It will require we had an arborist look at it, and it's an avocado tree. And it will require some pruning, but the arborist didn't see that it was a problem for this health of the tree. And we would be able to, because it's an important tree to the owners.
Okay.
And that, yeah.
I'm good. Thank you.
Just a quick question. The rendering kind of shows a smooth stucco finish. The existing home's more of a skip trowel. Is it going to be, the whole home is going to be a smooth stucco finish, or is the rear going to match the existing?
As of now, the rear will match the existing, but we're still in discussion as to whether we might smooth all the finish on the house. And I'm sorry, I neglected to mention that the owners have also reached out to the adjacent neighbors, and they haven't been able to talk to all of them, but we got both an email and letter of support, and then also verbal support from all the other neighbors that the homeowners have been able to chat with.
Just a quick question, Elaine, because I can't easily get to my print of, my digital of the plans. How, what is the depth of your, I guess that's the exit staircase and the little patio area? Do you know the depth of the?
So the depth of, well, the depth, like under the covered portion of the porch is 4'6".
Okay.
The actual depth of the patio out to the edge of the railing is 5'6".
Okay.
And then
great.
okay.
Thank you. I couldn't see from the rendering, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Covered. Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on this item? Please note that speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, comments?
I'll go.
Thanks, Commissioner Strand.
I think it's a good looking project. I like the reuse of the split level. I love split levels. And I think that this has really no impact to the back. And it's in the back of the neighbors off of Burlingame Avenue. So I don't see that this is a huge impact. I would encourage that you guys keep the skip trowel texture that's there because I think it does add a lot of character. Smoothing it out will take away from the detail and the charm of this home. So I would encourage you to try and keep that together with the client. But otherwise, I think it's a good project.
Completely agree with comments of my colleague. And it gives it a sort of a depth when it has the skip trowel on there. I think it's beautiful. This is not, I am very familiar with this neighborhood. It's not very far from where I reside. And I think it's wonderful that you've done such a great job of reusing what's there. And that these are Charlie, I forgot his last name, a builder that was well known in the area, took the orchard that was there and flowers and made it into houses in the 30s. And I think this is really in that spirit. And I think you did a really beautiful job. I have no other comments.
Yeah, I'm totally happy with the design, all the right details in all the right places.
So I'll make a motion to move it on to action. Or consent.
Consent?
Sorry. Actually, I would make a motion to move it on to consent per the staff report.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lowenthal
I'll second.
and a second by Commissioner Schmid. Any discussion on the motion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Lowenthal,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shores,
Aye.
Chair Haran.
Aye, the motion passes 5-0-0-1. This action is not appealable. Agenda item number 7, action items. We'll start with item 7A and I'll recuse my. You, sir.
Thank you. Good night. Okay. Okay, so item 7A, 1406 Drake Avenue. If you are the applicant and you are attending the meeting via Zoom, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. For any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communication regarding this project? Okay. Note that Commissioner Haran has already recused from this item. Let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear the staff report, please?
Yes, this is an application for a major design review for a 2-story single unit dwelling with an attached garage at 1406 Drake Avenue, zoned R1. This is an application to demolish an existing single unit dwelling and construct a new 3,378 square foot 2-story single unit dwelling with an attached 1-car garage. This application was before the Planning Commission on November 10th, 2025. The commission had some comments at that meeting and did place the item on for action. The applicant submitted revised plans dated November 21st, and the changes to those plans are summarized in your staff report. Staff notes that the project has been designed in accordance with the residential design guidelines and has no further recommended changes. Therefore, staff is recommending the Planning Commission approve the major design review application before you this evening as conditioned. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. The applicant is also here in the chambers this evening if you have any questions for him. Thank you. And also the The designer is on, and I will promote him to a panelist should you have any questions for him as well.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you'd like to add about the project? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rich Sargent. I'm representing the owner on this project who's here as well, Amit Kruna's right here, or Chibber, excuse me, and the project designer is on as well. I'm happy we made the changes that you recommended, and I think staff we also made one other change after submitting, which was to better fit with the neighborhood, which was change it to a composition shingle roof. I know it doesn't show on the rendering, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, questions for the applicant?
And for me.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you. Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on this item? Please note that the speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Okay, I will close the public hearing. So, comments?
Well, I'll go. Having been one person who thought it lacked the depth because of the sort of the lack of distinct area where the materials changed right there in the middle, or belly band or whatever. I think you've done a really good job of giving the depth that was lacking before, and also the changes in the window moldings, and it looks like a much more substantial, interesting architecture, I think, than the original, and really appreciate the changes.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I think it's a really handsome looking house, and I think it'll go real well on that block. It has undergone a lot of renovation over the years, and I'm inclined to pass it forward.
I agree. I'll make a motion that we approve it per the conditions and resolution.
Yes, also including change to the condition number 1 to include composite shingle roofing for the roof.
Agreed.
Okay,
I can second it. Sorry, were you going to say something?
a motion by Commissioner Schmidt. Anyone to second?
Oh, I'll second. Yeah.
And seconded by Commissioner Pfaff. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, may we please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Lowenthal,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Acting Chair Shores.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0-1-1.
Okay. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council, on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and accompanied by an appeal fee of $924, which includes notice and costs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item 7B, 900 Peninsula Avenue. If you are the applicant and are attending the meeting via Zoom, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note all commissioners present have visited the site. Can we hear the staff report?
Yes, this is an application for major design review for exterior facade changes to a commercial building at 900 Peninsula Avenue, zoned Myrtle Road Mixed Use Zone. This is a proposed project that includes facade changes to an existing commercial building, remodeling a sales office, and automobile service area on the first floor. Major design review is required for commercial buildings where there are changes to more than 50% of the front facade, including doors and windows. This project first appeared before the Planning Commission on August 11th, 2025. At that meeting, the commission did ask for a couple of changes to the project, and the applicant has submitted revised plans dated November 11th or November 24th. And those changes are summarized in the staff report. In general, the proposed facade changes meet the design guidelines set forth in the downtown specific plan, as well as the commercial design guidelines and the municipal code. Staff does not have any further suggested changes for the project. Therefore, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the major design review before you this evening with the recommended conditions of approval. The applicant is here this evening. If you have any questions, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Did you say the applicant is here this evening?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I thought you said isn't. So, okay, then I'll wait until the applicant.
Great. So I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward, state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project?
Hi, I'm Alan Cross. I'm the architect for the project. And yeah, thank you for the comments you provided last summer. We took those to heart. I think particularly with the elevation facing the railroad, I think there's a substantive change there in terms of trying to introduce more vitality, more transparency along that elevation. There was one other comment about the sort of primary entry and finding a way for that to announce itself a little bit more. I think we didn't, we felt a reconsideration of that moment wasn't necessarily merited. What we did try to provide is references from other Volvo projects for this portal component, which I think does provide a fair amount of depth that really sort of announce itself as the entry.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes,
Hi.
I have my Volvo from your place, really old in the driveway. So,
Oh.
yes. I just have a real quick question. I'm not completely understanding the Volvo signage. Is that something that's actually a built element, or is it just signage that's going over the window?
No, I mean, I would say it's a built element. It's incorporated into the window wall system. And so there's this sort of language of clear glass, translucent glass, and then this sort of blue glass. And so it's not really visible within the showroom from the interior, but it's sort of a signature Volvo component.
So then I do have a question. And it appears on the, I don't know how many, is it 4 faces, 3 faces, whatever. It is off center, and it caught my eye last time too, and I didn't say something, but I'm going to say it now. I just wondered, is there a reason why you have it off kilter like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that's just probably Volvo's design language in terms of just sort of a Scandinavian sensibility that is less about symmetry and less about everything being sort of centered. So, and it admittedly, given this sort of octagonal configuration, it's maybe a little confusing, and it might be a little more legible when there's sort of a larger expanse. But that's again sort of the Volvo vocabulary.
The Volvo thing. Yeah, it did catch my eyes looking strange, and I would put the whole thing blue over the window, but I'm not Volvo, so I just had to know
Sure.
if it was a have to do. So anyway, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for the applicant? Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on this item? Please note, speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, comments?
Yeah, I actually appreciate the effort put into that storefront. I know it's actually quite a bit of money to add that additional display area, but I think as you can see, the difference between the one versus the other, I think makes a huge difference. And in reality, I think 80% of the people are traveling in that direction rather than in the other direction. So I know I always am. So I think I think it's a nice add to it, and I appreciate you doing that and Volvo spending the money on it.
Agree, definitely.
Yeah, and I think I was the one who brought up the comment last time about the pedestrian entrance. I think it's kind of a problem that solves itself now because now that there's more on that wall, you're not standing there wondering how to get in there. You can kind of see the entrance on the other side through the giant plate glass anyway.
Mhm.
So I think it's a perfectly acceptable solution.
Yeah, I agree. I really appreciate the response to some of our comments, and the photos you provided of the oak surround is also helpful. It does provide the depth, I think, that was hard to read on some of the elevations. Any other comments? Commissioners, can I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve 900 Peninsula Avenue as proposed.
Per the conditions of the
Oh,
resolution.
per the conditions of the resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Pfaff, a second by Commissioner Lowenthal. Any discussion on the motion? May we please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Lowenthal,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shores,
Aye.
Chair Haran.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0-0-1. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing, must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $924, which costs. Congratulations. Item 7C, 1606 Rollins Road. If you are the applicant and are attending the meeting via Zoom, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Let the record note all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can you hear the staff report, please?
Yes, this is an application for a conditional use permit for a religious assembly facility within an existing commercial building at 1606 Rollins Road, zoned Innovation Industrial. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow a religious assembly facility, a church at 1606 Rollins Road. This is an existing single-story commercial building, contains 2 tenant spaces, 1606 as well as 1610 Rollins Road. Currently, 1610 Rollins Road has a pool service. 1606 was formerly occupied by an office use, a call center. And in April 2025, the city discovered there were improvements to the building being made without the benefit of a permit. And we have asked the applicant to cease work and operations at the site and then require them to come in and apply for the conditional use permit that's before you this evening. There are interior tenant improvements proposed. There are some minor exterior changes. However, the exterior improvements are not subject to major design review since they do not affect more than 50% of the building's facade. The project is considered an intensification of the previous use that was on site. Ordinarily, under our zoning code, 9 additional parking spaces would be required. However, due to the location of the property within a half-mile of El Camino, which is considered high-quality transit under AB 2097, this removes any minimum parking requirements the city can impose. However, while additional parking is not required, the applicant has elected to restripe the existing parking, resulting in an increase of 6 spaces. So there are 17 spaces currently on site, and they will end up with 23 spaces proposed with the restriping. There are nearby uses that are recreational uses, including sports club, gyms, and other indoor assembly uses. that are similar assembly to the proposed church. The church would operate outside of regular business hours for some of the other industrial type uses in the area and have events rarely that would coincide with those business hours. Limitations would reduce potential land use conflicts with other II uses. Staff does not have any other suggested changes for the Planning Commission to consider and therefore recommends the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit as conditioned. There are conditions of approval that were included in the resolution before you that do limit hours of operation as well as maximum capacity. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and the applicant's here this evening as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? I guess I can ask the applicant as well, but is there any signage proposed for the front of the building?
I believe there is signage that will be installed, and we have a condition of approval requiring a separate sign permit.
Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward, state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project?
Great. Hello, my name's Marie Barron. I'm the project architect, and Pastor Darley of the church is here as well. I think the staff report did a great job summing up what we'd like to do. It's very minor modification, just a couple door changes, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Yes. Is there going to be any kind of parking agreement put together with the pool people?
Yes, for the landlord, we did get the in discussion. They reviewed our site plan and changes we proposed. And so they gave their approval and email of what we had proposed. But in terms of a written agreement, I don't know of anything planned at this point.
Okay, so when I was there today, there was 4 or 5 trucks for the pool people, which I suspect don't move on the weekend when you're having events. And then there was 3 or 4 parking spaces that are being used for construction materials. So I don't see at any given time that you're going to have more than 10, 12 parking spaces available to you. Now, granted, there's parking out on Rollins, but I'm just concerned that I think that the parking that's being proposed in the back is being underrepresentative of the parking you're going to have to use. So, but I don't know that it means anything for us.
Probably not given the staff report, but right. No. Any other questions for the applicant? I'm going to open the public hearing. Sorry, it's open. Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on this item? Please note speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, comments? Can we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the project per the staff report for 1606 Rollins Road.
The resolution.
The resolution, thank you. Approve the resolution per the staff report.
Thank you, Commissioner Lowenthal. A second
I'll second it.
by Commissioner Pfaff. Any discussion on the motion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Lowenthal,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shores,
Aye.
Chair Haran.
Aye, the motion passes 5-0-0-1. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $924, which includes noticing costs. Congratulations. Item 7D, 1722 Gilbreth Road. If you are the applicant and are attending the meeting via Zoom, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear the staff report, please?
Yes, this is an amendment to a conditional use permit for an existing religious assembly facility and a variance for reduced landscaping at 1722 Gilbert Road, Zone Innovation Industrial. On May 23rd, 2016, the Planning Commission approved a conditional use permit to allow religious assembly facility at this location. In January 2025, the city discovered an existing landscaping had been removed and an 8-foot tall chain link fence enclosing a playground with a play structure and sport court had been installed in the front area without benefit of a permit or planning entitlements or building permit. The applicant was instructed to submit the required application for the proposed improvements and use. That application is before you this evening, and the playground that has been installed would be used by the members using the existing facility during events and activities being held at the site. Staff has provided a detailed activity schedule, which is included in summarized in your staff report. The playground may generate intermittent noise. However, given the property location adjacent to Highway 101, this noise generation would be not considered substantial. The expansion of the religious assembly facility use and the outdoor playground area extends an existing and improved use. However, this does not increase the parking demand, because it would be used by the existing members and would not increase number of visitors to the site. Before the playground was installed, the front of the building consisted of a lawn area as well as various small-scale trees and shrubs. However, the existing site was considered non-conforming in terms of meeting the landscape requirement for this district, which is a minimum of 15% of the site. It was non-conforming at 1.2% of the site. However, with the installation of the play area, the landscaping has been reduced by 420 square feet from the 1.2% to 0.04%. And again, where 15% is required, therefore the applicant is requesting a variance for site landscaping. The displaced landscaping cannot be added elsewhere as it would displace the approved parking. There is some landscaping that is located beyond the property line within the city right-of-way. This includes 5 trident maple trees, 2 palm trees, and 1 olive tree. However, the Parks Division notes that these are not on the Burlingame Street tree approved list, so the applicant will be replacing those. They will also be installing some ground cover and shrubs to be planted in the right-of-way to soften the appearance of the chain link fence from the street. Parks' final inspection will be inspecting the tree replacements as well as the ground cover. Staff does not have any suggested changes for the Planning Commission to consider at this time, and staff does recommend the Planning Commission approve the amended conditional use permit and the landscape variance as conditioned. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant's here this evening as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
So there's an approved site plan that has parking that is entirely different than the as-built parking plan? Was that part of the conditional use approval back in 2016 and it never was restriped?
No, the parking, there's a parking management plan
Yeah.
that was part of the whole, that has not been altered. I think that the point of it was to add landscaping, you'd have to take out the parking, and there was a whole parking management plan. That has not changed, though.
Okay.
But if we ask them to replace the landscaping somewhere on site, it would displace the parking.
Okay.
So,
Was your question that the current striping doesn't match what's in that plan, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's something perhaps we can check with the applicant. see what's happened since 2016 or if some of the parking has faded or.
Any other questions for staff?
I think I'll ask the applicant.
Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward, state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project?
Okay, good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Isam Hussein. I'm one of the council members of the Yassine Foundation. I'm here on behalf of the council to respectfully request your consideration in approving our variance application. First, I'd like to offer my apologies regarding the already constructed playground. We were informed by both the company and the contractor that a permit had been obtained and that a certificate of compliance was issued to the foundation upon the completion of the project. We hope the playground can remain as it will be beneficial to our children. The playground encourages not only children, but also adults to engage in physical activity. It was built solely for our mosque members and is used only during mosque operation hours. The Yassine Foundation will fully comply with all conditions required under the variance application. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I do, and I'm not sure if you can answer or not. I'm just curious what happened? Why was the original plan not followed through, and what happened?
Sure. So I took a position, this was just prior to me taking a position there. From what I understood is that at that time there was, I think we had turf that was in that area in front of the building. And then the idea came to add a playground for our community. We have a very large community, a couple hundred people every Friday for prayers and Ramadan, and we have various things. And so it seemed like a very nice way to extend our community and have our children have a nice, safe place to be. So in that area that was all turfed, and I don't know if prior if it was cement on underneath. I just remember for the last couple of years. Okay, maybe not. 4 or 5 years ago, it was turf, and then so we had applied with the builders for the playground, and they told us that they'd handle everything, and that was all part of their job. And so we assumed we hadn't done a playground before, so we assumed they'd handle it just like a contractor would. And then from that time, it was completed, and we didn't receive anything back. We assumed that it was taken care of, and then we found out, in the last year of what had happened, it wasn't pulled permits for.
Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up on Commissioner Schmidt's question. So on the screen, there's the approved site plan, and then the one on the lower left is what was in the or the parking management plan. And that appears to be what is actually there today, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So is that, and maybe this is going back to staff, did the parking management plan supersede the approved site plan, or?
I believe they have a valet service. So I think the parking management plan is showing the stacking when they're the valet parking, but you could probably.
I'm not exactly clear. So I don't think anything parking related was altered or touched. We're talking about that green area, correct?
Yeah, well, I'm actually just shifting to the question that Commissioner Schmidt had, which is unrelated to the front landscaping. It was more, there's two different parking designs shown on that sheet that's on the screen right now. And it's just for clarification, which parking design was actually approved by the city, because it's currently the one in the lower left is the current state.
The top left is different than the lower left?
Well, you see the white, I'm sorry, the whole right side of the screen where it says approved site plan. It has many more spots.
I think there's a issue with the labeling of this plan because that plan on the right is the parking management plan. You can see how the spaces like in parallel are 3 across. So that shows how during certain events they would go to a valet parking style and use this layout here. So
okay.
Right.
So
Further clarify what Ruben's saying, the page 8 of this parking management plans, the graphic on the right, is not intended for the parking lot to be restriped in that configuration. It's when they reach flex to a large event size as defined by the CUP for the amount of of attendees, that they are supposed to have parking attendants that facilitate
I see.
parking that way to get more parking on site, but the striping would stay per municipal code standard, and that would not be.
Okay. Thank you.
I think if condition number 8 in the resolution addresses this in terms of, it says it clarifies that it exceeds the number of striped on-site spaces based upon the 4 valets that they would have as detailed in their parking management plan, as Director Zaire noted. So that condition 8 clarifies that.
So then my question is, are you using the valet system and using this parking system for events?
Usually we are able to use what we currently have. We don't really go over capacity. We do have a lot of street parking on Gilbreth. So we haven't really had events where we needed too much of the parking lot. The neighbors also share parking lot with us. They have no problem. We use it for a short amount of time on Fridays for about 2 hours every day. So really, those are the only times that we need a large capacity. This amount handles our day-to-day operations.
Thank you. The chain link fence, is there anything that maybe the staff or you have talked about to soften the chain link besides doing the public easement at the street? Is there, ivy that you can grow on the fence, or putting slats or privacy or
Trumpet vine.
trumpet vine? I'm not the expert here, so Commissioner Pfaff is, but
Which chain link fence are you referring?
this is the one that the 8-foot fence around the playground.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, I looked into those online, and putting something like that. That would be great. Would really make it nice and not be so much of a fence. So we'd be happy to do something like that. If that's
I don't know the answer. It's just,
Yeah.
Having a chain link fence right against the sidewalk is not the best, but it's an industrial area. It just, anything to soften it would be, what's that?
Just a freeway chain link fence.
That's true. Good point. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on this item? Please note, speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, comments?
Thank you.
I'll go.
Thank you.
So I went by, I guess it was yesterday, and there were children playing. It was very nice. Looked like it was well used. Fence is kind of offensive. I was glad to see that it was black, because it's a little more friendly than the steel or whatever they're usually made of. But I was going to go the direction of yes. Just also, you're so close to the freeway, and there's pollution and everything. Probably it's eastward spewing that way. Be really nice to have some kind of buffer. So if I saw the recommendation from staff about planting something, but I would make sure it climbed and went, really like something evergreen, like, I don't know, big, or a trumpet or something that really kind of was always there and provided a buffer. And it's just a friendlier environment for the kids too. And I was really glad to see that the 5 maples were in there. I saw them, they were planted. So that's, helps. So anyway, those are my comments. Otherwise, I have no problem with this as it is. So
Thank you, Commissioner Pfaff. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm concerned, not about the playground itself. Playground to me is fine. I'm disappointed that the permit wasn't obtained, because then we would have actually had an opportunity to provide good feedback. And, I noticed there seems to be quite a few changes there that I wouldn't have done the way they were done. The air conditioning units on the roof don't look like they were done with a permit. There's a structure in the back that's called out as a trash enclosure that's really a storage accessory unit, because the trash is actually out in the parking lot. I don't agree that landscaping couldn't be added back to help offset this. I think the handicap spot that was created in the front is taking up area that was landscape. And it could be landscape again and still provide access to the playground gate. It would gain back about 5, 6 more feet of green buffer at the front that I think could add value and possibly another tree. I think tree wells could be added in the parking lot in the back. I think it just needs to be studied. Looking at the neighbor to the right, NEMS, they have a whole row of parking that's been chained off. And looking at the photos back 10 years, it's been chained off for 10 years. The previous tenants had it chained off. Nobody's parked in those spaces forever. So I think a negotiation could be done there if parking seems to be the driver. But I do think that back area it's a pit of asphalt. And if this was any other retail area, we'd be asking for tree wells. So I don't see that there's not a reason why tree wells couldn't be introduced back there and make that area nicer for both the people that are parking back there and entering into the facility, but also to just add trees. Because as much as I'm not big on the trees, I think that there is something to having too much asphalt and not enough vegetation, which is why we have the landscaping number to begin with. So I'm not inclined to say rip it out. I'm just saying there needs to be an offset, and I think that the landscaping needs to be relooked at.
Thank you, Commissioner Schmidt. Any other comments? To move this forward, would you be amenable to me opening the public hearing again to see if we add that as a condition and let the staff manage it? So I'll open the public hearing again and invite the applicant back up.
Good question. Where were you regarding adding that, the trees that you said having?
Well, so at the very front where the play structure is,
Yes.
there's new concrete versus the asphalt where the new flat area for a handicap accessible space has been created.
Okay.
Well, it was actually moved quite a bit further forward than it was previously, if you go back and look 5 years ago.
Okay.
And so you've recaptured an area that was landscape for that parking spot, which I understand, but it also, I'm trying to give you ways to negotiate some landscape back in.
Yeah, we've been trying to figure different ways to do that. And you're talking about along the right side of the building?
The front right
It's
corner.
the right corner.
Front right corner, exactly. Okay.
And it's not much.
Yeah.
It's only,
Yeah.
but I think more impactful would be looking into tree wells in the back parking area, because you could potentially get 10 trees back there that would eventually mature and add some value back there and take up some of the pollution that comes from the freeway and all the parking.
This is on the opposite side of
Rear.
The
back
rear parking area.
where those handicap spaces are. Okay.
Well, no, I'm talking
Oh.
like in your whole rear parking area where you've got 50 spaces back there.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at a lot of the way retail parking gets done is you have
Yeah.
5, 6 spaces, you have a little tree well
Little islands.
and
Okay.
a little island, and you've got nothing but asphalt really back there.
Mhm.
So I think there's an opportunity to look at it.
Okay.
And I don't think that just saying we have the exact number of parking spaces from the original agreement, therefore we can't change anything.
Mhm.
I think there's room to make it better.
Okay. And we'd probably have to sacrifice some of those parking spaces.
You
in order-
might lose a couple spots
Okay.
out of it, but a lot of times those parking are in between.
Mhm.
And it would make doing this really big overflow different.
Mhm.
Yes, agreed. But you haven't really said that you've had to use that a lot.
Yeah.
And there's no lack of asphalt out there. It's maybe having to do a handshake with NEMS next door
Mhm.
who's not using 20 spaces.
Yeah,
And that might be another way, that in conjunction with some landscaping in the back, you might be able to net more parking
yeah.
and provide a better solution for the environment.
Okay, I think that's fair. Let's look into that.
Okay, so
Oh.
thank you. Oh, did you want to say something? Sorry.
Good evening, Commissioners, if I may. So the front right side, I think it was required to have the handicap parking. On the left side of, right side, as you enter the parking lot, it was changed. And and I went back and I'm actually the designer of the project. I apologize. And I went back and forth with the senior planner, and it was changed, but we are willing to comply with the type of plants that that can be planted on the back. I think it's gonna look great. I agree.
I think if you solve something in the back,
Mhm.
I'd be less worried about a beating on the front,
Yes, yes.
right?
I visited the site.
I need
There's no
here.
pre,
All I'm saying is
yeah.
we as a community have lost the grass at the very least.
Yes. And also the front area, there's going to be like, I think brushes, like a short one and, some trees, but, the city will, or the parks will pick the trees and the brushes, and we will comply with whatever the type of, plants we will, plant
Thank,
the front and also on the side.
thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
So could it be as simple as adding a condition to find places for 10 additional trees on the property? Or is that, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, I mean, I think there, some effort towards this, not zero effort,
Mhm.
needs to be done.
Yeah, so work
And
with staff to,
I
like,
don't want to lose 20 parking spaces over
no, no,
trees,
right.
but I do think that there are some creative ways for somebody who wants to lay out a parking lot to make that work.
Would you be amenable to that?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay,
We can look at it and with that idea and kind of figure it out, I think.
okay.
And irrigation, excuse me, and irrigate them too.
Okay, yeah, we'll have.
Yeah, because otherwise they're not going to last long out there. Yeah.
Okay. I'll close the public hearing. With that, would you be able to put together a motion?
Well, I think our motion is to continue it because we can't, what's in front of us is a landscape variance.
Right. I guess my original proposal was just to say approve per the conditions of the resolution with this additional condition.
But I think that planning staff is going to need to be able to look at the tree well layout to see that it's.
Yeah, my proposal was to delegate that to the staff and not bring it back to the commission.
Do you mind if I jump in?
Yeah, no.
My recommendation would be in alignment with Commissioner Schmidt since this is a landscape variance and we've specifically put the percentage in square footage of that variance, if that is going to we'd want to be able to bring it back and make sure that we can work with the applicant because irrigation will be a factor and those locations. As I'm looking at the intent, it looks like the sides of the building where there's parallel parking may be an easier place to remove those parallel spaces and bump up those landscape areas since they're already irrigated and add trees along the buildings. So we can explore some ideas and then make sure that the traffic management plan, parking management plan aligns with landscaping. So if this is Planning Commission's direction, we're happy to work with the applicant and then bring this back once we work through those amendments.
Okay. Yeah, I was just in the spirit of not taking up commission time with this. It's not something I have a lot of energy around I trust the staff to figure this out.
Absolutely. If it wasn't for they're asking for a specific variance for the
We're
amount,
still at variance.
we would be.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm open either way. Yeah.
Decrease based on what landscaping we can add.
Right.
Because they're not going to come back with the number that actually doesn't get them out of a variance.
No, that's why I don't understand why it actually makes a difference because there's
Well, because it's
variance.
still a variance that they're requesting from us.
Yeah, no, I guess my proposal was to approve the variance and ask them to work with staff to find a place to put some more trees. That was the original proposal.
Yeah, and since we are specific about the amount of
Right.
percentage.
I understand that.
I-
Okay, so that makes it easy.
So I propose that we continue this item, given that the applicant worked with staff on landscaping opportunities and parking management.
Great. Do we have?
Sounds like a
second?
good idea. I'll second it.
I have a motion by Commissioner Schmid, a second by Commissioner Pfaff. Any discussion on the motion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Lowenthal,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shores,
Aye.
Chair Hurin.
Aye, the motion passes 5-0-0-1. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $924, which includes noticing costs. Thank you. So we'll see you back. Thanks.
Thank you.
Item 7E, Municipal Code Text Amendments. The applicant is at the podium. Well, that doesn't apply, and I don't know if there's any members of the public left in the room. Great. Should we go straight to the staff report then?
Thank you, planning commissioners. I'm going to share my screen. I could have a moment. All right. I have started screen sharing if you want to display the Zoom.
So I think, Catherine, if you're still sharing, you may need to stop sharing.
Need some help, Ruben.
I think Britt
All right.
gonna come up.
I'll get started while they work on that, since there's quite a bit of background to base on. So we are tonight bringing the municipal code amendments back for action by the Planning Commission. And these were amendments to Title 25 as well as Title 26, specifically the chapter related to condominium permits. Back on December 8th, 2025, we had a study session with the Planning Commission where we went through these code amendments and discussed the proposed amendments. There was a lot of discussion primarily that revolved around plate heights and proposals to change the allowable plate heights. There was discussion around further amendments to the view descriptions in the hillside overlay and making sure that's very clear and there's no room for interpretation about what rooms constitute views. And there was kind of unanimous direction from the Planning Commission to further amend that. So we did do that, and you'll see that reflected in the new version of the code amendments that were posted. And then lastly, there was a lot of discussion around the incentives menu that was developed that provided developers incentives when they build affordable housing projects, particularly about the setback proposal and various options of adjusting that setback. There was no real clear direction, or we didn't land on something specific to change, so we didn't make any amendments, and we've just brought back the proposals as were previously discussed. If it's easier, I'll just stop sharing and you guys can share off the PowerPoint if that's easier.
I think it's up there, Netta, although the bottom may be.
Oh, is it
heading-
me?
Yeah, it looks like it's you.
That's okay.
That's all right.
Not
I
bothering.
think, yeah.
All right,
That's
I'm there. So I've already gone through this. So now it's being brought back. Again, we preserved the code amendments that were previously posted and discussed at the December 8th meeting with the one modification to the view description and an addition that I'll go into in a little bit detail here. But there's 5 basic components to these municipal code amendments. There's code clarifications where we're fixing typos, clarifying language and references, and we won't discuss that any further as those are pretty self-explanatory in the code. Secondly was housing element implementation. Our 6th cycle housing element has a variety of programs that the city must implement in this cycle. A number of them required zoning code text amendments, which have been folded into this. We're covering the 2023, 24, and 25 programs. Third was permit and process amendments. These were staff suggestions for ways to modify the code to make certain processes more streamlined and provide clarity for applicants. The 4th element or component was TOC policy. The Metropolitan Transportation Commission developed transit-oriented communities policies that cities can voluntarily opt into. However, they are tying funding to those policies. This was discussed with City Council, and they provided us direction on amendments or policies to implement. A variety of them included code amendments. And then one component that we added since the study session was ADU state law updates. There were a variety of ADU laws that were adopted this in 2025 that went into effect on January 1st that we folded in so we could capture since they are now state law. Okay, so we'll start with the housing element implementation, and I'll go over this briefly. It's in further detail in the staff report, but just to provide everyone a high level. Program A4 was for no net loss, meaning when a housing unit is displaced, demolished, converted into something else, it has to be replaced elsewhere, and no net units can be lost. So policies were added in the code for that. Program A5 was missing middle housing units, which the program states the SB 9 law, which relates to single unit dwellings and single unit residential properties, where they can subdivide a lot into 2 lots and build 2 units on each, be expanded to the R2 zoning district 2. So we've taken all of those requirements and standards and applied them to the R2 zone as well. Program A7 was lot consolidation. It can often be difficult for developers to consolidate lots as they could be owned by a variety of property owners. And for smaller lots, this is categorized as half an acre or less to encourage or incentivize the consolidation so that more housing or the density that's allowed on those sites can build the density that has been prescribed to occur, that we provide in incentives. The program states that the incentive should include increasing maximum heights, lessening setbacks, and or reducing a parking requirement. Staff developed an incentive menu that's included in the draft language and selected 2 incentives. One was the maximum heights that were required, and then staff selected reducing setbacks and prescribed a 10-foot reduction. There was a lot of discussion around this at the December 8th study session. Planning Commission can recommend sticking with the 10-foot reduced setback, can discuss if you want to include reduced parking instead of lessening setbacks, or finesse or alter that reduced setback. Whatever is selected or recommended, the encouragement and advice from staff is that it be significant enough to be an incentive for a developer, as HCD will be reviewing this, and the intent is that it is an incentive. Program B4 is to provide streamlining in our code. So one was to revise the R3 and R4 standards, which and increase the lot coverage by 10% for those zoning districts. That aligns with the mixed use zones within the city. And basically HCD said if your mixed use zones that allow residential allow more lot coverage, then your residential zones should too. So that's been revised to match the mixed use zones. Secondly, to eliminate the parking requirements for development within a half mile of transit. This is already a state law that's in place. It was just requiring that we put in our municipal code to align with state law. So there's no new requirement here. C2 was to provide incentives for developers to include more affordable housing in their projects. So one portion of this was to allow additional affordable units as a community benefit. As you may know, many of the zoning districts have a menu of community benefit incentives to allow for more density or lot coverage or FAR. They can pick from a menu of community benefits. So we've added additional affordable units as a community benefit they can pick. So if they are already, they have to first meet the requirements of the residential impact fee section of our code, so the requirements that are in there, and anything that they do above and beyond that, based on what's written in this language, they would be able to do a community benefit. So that community benefit does prescribe how much, what percentage, and what affordability level those additional units must be. Adopt incentives to encourage larger affordable units. Again, in this incentive menu that we developed, if they provide a certain percentage of the units that are affordable in the project to be larger units, 2, 3, 4 bedroom units, as those are rarer to find and in higher demand, that they can get incentives for doing so. And then lastly, for this program, to extend the affordability term restrictions on subsidized housing. So our residential impact fee section requires that deed restricted affordable units have a restriction of 55 years. We are extending that to in perpetuity. And then we've amended the percentage, which right now is just 10%, to be 15%. 10% of that being low and 5% of that being very low. So we're deepening and increasing the affordability requirement. The next housing element program, D2, was to improve livability of housing units for persons with disabilities. There's a variety of, and I won't go into each one, but these are our state laws that are already in effect, and we're just required to update our zoning code to match the definitions and requirements that are already in state law around affordability, supportive housing, and shared living facilities or group homes. Program D3 was to add, is the same as program C2, so I won't go into details. It's again an incentive for larger affordable units. Program D5 was to provide local share of support for countywide programs. So again, state law has certain requirements for emergency shelters that we needed to amend our code to align with and to update our definition. So we did that to align with state law. Okay, and that's all of the housing element implementation items. The next section is about permit and process improvements. And we went into a lot more detail at the study session, so I won't go back into that level of detail, but just high level. One was to eliminate the requirement for study for major design review. And instead, projects would come to Planning Commission as an action item, which then the Planning Commission could decide to act on it that evening or continue it. This would help with streamlining a variety of other ways to help projects that are ready to go and well-designed, adhering to requirements to move through the process more quickly. To eliminate the design review consultant requirement and rather work with staff to work with applicants and through the Planning Commission hearing process to get projects to a point where they are ready for approval. Since staff is now doing staff recommendations and working more closely with applicants behind the scenes, we believe can supplement that service behind the scenes. And then minor planning applications to move some of the minor planning application types that were coming before Planning Commission that we did not see many comments from planning commissioners themselves or the public of interest on them to an administrative review again, so those could be done more quickly, and staff will review that at staff level and make sure it's designed well, meeting requirements, so on and so forth. The next group of these amendments were to the single unit dwelling requirements. And we had spoke more in detail about this at the study session, but non-conforming setbacks, we added a provision in the non-conforming requirements section of the municipal code as an exception for single-family units that had an existing non-conforming setback that wanted to maintain it, and allowing that to be maintained as long as it is not expanded, exacerbated beyond what was already there, versus trying to resolve issues in the field where they're trying to maintain walls that need to be reconstructed for a variety of reasons. As the second was the plate height, and this was a staff recommendation that we are seeing because of modern construction practices that they're needing a bit more than the 9 foot. And then we are seeing with historic homes or historic residents, there's a typically 9 foot 6 inch plate height. And so when they're doing additions and expansions, they're wanting to match that 9 foot 6. So staff was recommending to revise the 9 foot plate height to 9 foot 6 inches to capture those changes to construction and these historic homes that have a little bit higher plate height than the 9 feet or the 8 feet, to add some of that flexibility for those more common occurrences that staff is seeing. And then thirdly, the parking requirements. Right now, our parking requirement is a formulaic based on the amount of bedrooms. We're recommending simplifying that and just doing 2 parking spaces, 1 covered, 1 uncovered for ease of implementation and for applicants, especially when there's additions and modifications being made to a residence. And then the fourth category was the transit-oriented communities, or the TOC policy. Again, we received direction from council on which policies to work through. The TOC protection policy number 2 was one of those policies that were selected. It aligns with Housing Element Program A4, so I won't go into much detail. It's again the no net loss policy, but there's a lot of detail in that policy about how that is accomplished. Sorry, there's a bit of a lag. Oops, I went too far. TOC preservation policy number 4, which was the second policy, and this is condominium conversion restrictions. This is related to chapter 26.32. So we've proposed for that chapter to completely repeal and replace it, since we made a lot of amendments to it. Basically, for projects that have to be more than 20 units. Which is a requirement of our Housing Element Program E2 for them to convert to a condominium project. So say there's an existing residential building that's a rental building, an apartment building, and they want to convert into a condo, the building, and make it ownership. There's a variety of requirements in there that protects the tenants, the rental tenants that are in there now, about having first right of refusal, relocation, assistance plans, and a variety of other things that the applicants have to meet in order to be able to convert or condominiumize that existing residential building. And then the third policy was around parking policies, which is all happening in chapter 2540, which is our parking regulations. There's unbundled parking being added, and unbundled parking is basically you can lease parking spaces separately than your unit, and they're charged separately and not included as part of your rent. So that is a option and process that's been defined in there. Eliminating parking requirements from half-mile transit. Again, this is already state law and a Housing Element Program item. And then we added minor clarifications for shared parking agreements and included new standards for long-term bicycle facilities to make sure they're locked, secured, and accessible, and the amount of them, to encourage other modes of transportation. And then lastly, these new amendments that we added was related to the new state laws. So AB 1154 and SB 543 were passed by the state and went into effect on the 1st. So we've updated our regulations to align with those new laws. The basic premise of the changes is around JADUs. It prohibits JADUs from being used as short-term rentals. So that's specifically identified now. So ADUs and JADUs cannot be used as short-term rentals. There previously was an owner occupancy requirement for JADUs that either JADU or the primary resident had to be owner occupied. That requirement has been removed and is only enforceable if the JADU shares a bathroom with the primary. If they have separate bathrooms, they can be leased and rented separately. There is now no requirement for a owner occupancy on those sites. We added an appeal process, a planning commission appeal process, so an applicant is able to appeal a city's incompleteness determination when they go through the building permit review process. We identify anything that's incomplete in their application. If an applicant doesn't agree with something we are identifying as incomplete, meaning preventing their permit from being issued, they can appeal that decision to the planning commission. They can also appeal a decision that the city makes to deny an ADU. So the appeal process has been added. Thirdly is size. An ADU and JADU used to just be standard square footage. It's been changed now to be based on interior livable space. Interior livable space is defined in the code. And then lastly, impact fees, ADUs and JADUs less than 500 square feet are now exempt from school district fees. They were exempt from all other impact fees from the city, but used to be subject to school fees. They're now not subject to school fees either. We did receive a public comment letter today that was included in the supplemental packet sent to the Planning Commission and posted online that related to ADU requirements. It's specifically focused on the parking requirements. Just in an abundance to be clear, even though we believe we're in compliance, our ADU ordinance was reviewed by HCD. We are proposing just a minor amendment to section 254830E10 to add and H, which is the parking section, to the statewide exempt ADUs. So on the screen here in black is what the existing language reads as, and then in red and underlined is the proposed section that we're adding, just so it's clear to the community and users that the parking regulations also don't apply for the statewide exempt ADUs, which are under its own category. Okay, in summary, we've gone through kind of the clarifications we're proposing, the streamlining of permit and processes, compliance with housing element policies that the city has agreed to do in its certified housing element, and to implement the MTC TOC policies that we discussed with council to implement as well. And then of course, the ADU regulation changes. There are no new design requirements that are being introduced, especially particularly as it pertains to housing projects, and any new design requirements would need to be objective in nature. So we're very well aware of that and reviewed it accordingly. So given that staff is recommending that tonight the Planning Commission take two actions, there's two resolutions that were included. The first, that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution that was included in the supplemental packet that was posted today related to Title 2025. So that would amend Title 25 of the Burlingame Municipal Code, excluding the chapters that are listed here on the screen that were not included. And that also, that item would be exempt from CEQA pursuant to state CEQA guidelines 15378 and 15061B3, and then to include that amendment to section 254830 10 that I discussed in the ADU section, as written here on the screen, shown in red, to add and H after subsection F. And then the second action that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution included the agenda packet recommending that the City Council repeal and replace Chapter 26.32 in its entirety. That also includes the exemption of the item from CEQA pursuant to those guidelines I listed. That's it. I think that's enough. I'm available for any questions or discussion about this.
Thank you, Director Zayer. I think before we jump in, Commissioner Shores and I had an opportunity to meet with Assistant Attorney Burke. So maybe just to lay out what the objective here is, we're not approving this, right? We're making a recommendation to the City Council to approve. We're also, even though consensus and kind of, clear alignment among us is nice, I think it's also valuable for the City Council to just understand the different perspectives. So we'll take a vote, but if somebody just has a different opinion, we should note that and make sure the City Council has visibility to everyone's viewpoint when they consider these topics for approval. The other thing I did, a lot of homework over the weekend, was to try to really simplify this because there's 100+ pages of documents that we're trying to review. So if we take the categorization that staff has laid out, there's these 5 categories. I've identified through our previous review on December 8th, and then the presentation also touched on them. There's actually 8, I think, topics that we've identified as things we want to discuss. And I'll go through those. If you have a 9th, 10th, 11th, it'd be nice before we jump into the conversation to just try to get an inventory of each of the topics that we're going to be debating or tackling tonight. That also means there's some areas that to me have zero, controversy, and maybe we can just agree to check those off so that we can start narrowing down the discussion. So I'll go through it now. If you guys have your own list, this was just my take on the scope of what we need to debate tonight. So for the category 1 code clarifications, I had one topic that I thought fell within that, which was the hillside view definition. So that was to correct ambiguous language. So that's one topic that we can talk about. In the housing element implementation, I also only found one topic for debate, and that was the incentives, specifically the setback and the way the setback incentive is worded. For the permit and process amendments, that's where the bulk of the topics are. I found 6 topics that we might want to discuss. So the recommendation to make the study session optional, the recommendation to remove the design consultant, the recommendation that minor applications go directly to the director and not to the Planning Commission. And then I've come up with a few after going through this with a fine-tooth comb. You can disagree. One was just around story poles. We're making that, the language in the code still says it's optional, but every single time we see an increase in height, we say, go back and put in story poles. So I just wanted to raise that as a, should we mandate story poles if the height of roof is increasing in the hillside overlay zone? I'm happy to give up on that. I just thought of that as I reviewed it. The next one is the non-conforming structures that they're allowed to rebuild as long as they don't make the non-conformance exacerbate the non-conformance. And then lastly, it was plate height. So I found 8 topics across those 3 categories. The last 2 categories of TOC policy and new ADU, I found none, and mostly because these are mandates that we've either already committed to or that the state really doesn't allow us to have much flexibility on. So, so those 2, I think, are kind of moot for us to debate. And that also includes the resolution on Title 26, which I think it's just the condominium one, which we really don't have a lot of say in, and I didn't find anything personally that was concerning. So it feels like we could make a motion to clear Title 26 pretty quickly and then focus on these 8 or additional, if you guys had additional items that you, so anything that I missed that was a hot topic for everyone?
Thank you for being so organized.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Did all the work for us.
Well, no, now it's the fun part. Now we kind
Yeah.
of discuss each of those one by one. Do you want to get a quick win though? And does somebody want to make a motion on the resolution for Title 26?
If you would like to, we need to open up for public comment first.
Okay, I'll open it up for public comment, even though there is no public present. So, but I guess anyone's able to speak if you'd like. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, for the resolution on Title 26 to replace that, it's related to the condominium conversion. Do I have a motion?
And we put it on screen for ease for you.
Oh, so it's a tongue twister. So, okay, can I read it right the way it is?
You sure can.
Righty, that's a good one. I'll take it. So I'm going to move to repeal and replace chapter 26.32, which is the condominium conversion permits of Title 26 subdivisions of the Burlingame Municipal Code in its entirety. And, right, go on, and exempt the item from CEQA pursuant to state CEQA guidelines 15378-15061B3.
Thank you, Commissioner Pfaff. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Pfaff and a second by Commissioner Shores. Any discussion on the motion? And just a reminder, this is a motion to recommend to the city council. So it's not a motion to approve this. Of course. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Lowenthal,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff.
She had to.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Perfect.
We heard her. Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shores,
Aye.
Chair Haran.
Aye, the motion passes 5-0-0-1. I don't need to read the,
No.
no. Okay, good. Okay, so if we jump back then to category 1, which was code clarifications, and there's recommended language that has been updated for the protected views. So I'll jump in because this is a maybe hobby horse of mine. So I still am concerned that it still leaves room for a bit of ambiguity. I'll read it again. View preservation shall be limited to.
Do you mind referencing the code section?
Code section 25.20.040. View preservation shall be limited to obstruction of distant views to San Francisco Bay, the San Francisco Airport, and Mills Canyon from primary indoor living areas. So the modified language was primary indoor living areas include, parentheses, living rooms, dining rooms, and family rooms, close parentheses, and exclude kitchens, bathrooms, dens, stairwells, and entryways. So that's better, I think, but include still, I think, means it's not as definitive as is limited to, because I can imagine somebody saying, yeah, but what about my home gym? Because or what about a home office? It also doesn't explicitly exclude bedrooms, which we've talked about before. So I think it's in the right direction, but I would just like to really nail this so that there's no ambiguity. I think the other thing we talked about last time is when we say exclude kitchens, it's a pretty blanket exclusion, where when we visited some houses, we see that they have an eat-in kitchen and there is a giant picture window in the eat-in kitchen, and then that's also a gray area. So I don't know the right treatment for that situation, but it just feels like we shouldn't be the ones that are always adjudicating whether that's a primary living space or not. Open up for your thoughts.
I mean, that sounds good. I guess in terms of the only thing that comes up in my mind is the kitchens thing, right? I guess it depends on whether we would want to include like an eating area, like a dining room, somewhere you'd have dinner with your family every night. Is that a primary living space specifically? And there are kitchens that blend the two on purpose, right? So is it like the view when you're standing in front of the oven counts as the view from the kitchen, or?
No, and I think that was the spirit of it, right? That the small window over the sink is not a primary living space, but with an open plan layout where the kitchen has a, you know, an eat-in component and there's a big window. If I were the applicant, I would argue that's a primary living space.
So then it's defining big window,
May-
right?
Mhm.
It's defining that there was an intentional effort made when when this home was constructed to create a view option here.
Right.
Versus the small window that just happens to look over a tree, which is half of these.
I'll take a step back. If you guys are comfortable with the language as proposed by the staff, I'm not gonna push it too much. I just felt like at a minimum, maybe we add bedrooms, because bedrooms is something we've always said is excluded. It would be nice to just have it in writing. The other simple change could be that we just say limited to versus includes, because includes means it's not an exhaustive list.
What if we did both and we revised, and I've put it up on the screen. So primary indoor living areas include and are limited to living rooms, dining rooms, and family rooms, and exclude kitchens, bathrooms, bedrooms, dens, stairwells, and entryways.
Yeah, that's an improvement, I think.
I think that's fine. And it also puts the onus on the applicant to prove their point. If, to Commissioner Shor's point, there's a lot of great rooms out there where it's hard to say, well, that's part of the kitchen, no, that's part of the family room. Make the applicant make the case. No, this is a large window that looks out. Yes, it's kind of in the kitchen. And I think we would buy that argument.
Yeah, that's,
So I think that's fair.
I'm okay with that. Commissioner Pfaff?
Well, it's wordsmithing. It's more wordsmithing would take me a while to do, but there's something in there about the intent of these spaces being that they were meant to be, I don't know what the word is.
Take advantage of distant views.
So view driven.
What's the,
Like a gathering space?
yeah,
Place people come.
yeah, which would then include whether it was the kitchen or or the dining room, or, I mean, I see this is a problem, actually.
Yeah, I mean, let me even be more controversial just for the fun of it. Well, two things came to mind when you said that. I realized that I might design a house where you and bang in the entry foyer, see the money view, right?
True.
And so if somebody had something like that where the whole house was designed for that impact when you open the front door, that view would not be protected according to the language we've just talked about. So that is a little bit of a problem. But if I take a step back, my friends who live in Hillsborough, they have no view protection code, to my understanding, in Hillsborough.
And it's not entirely common.
It
is not entirely common to
Right.
protect private.
So that could be another option to propose to the city council. It would be their decision, but to just do away with this entirely.
The difference, though, I'm thinking about Hillsborough, the difference, though, is the parcels are way bigger.
Yeah.
So
Rare,
yeah,
less common.
exactly. They're not on top of each other. So
And most of them can't see a bay or distant view. They see each other.
yeah.
Yeah, no, let's go back. I like the director's proposal.
But I think part of what you're asking for is it can't be definitive to where they can pin us down. And it shouldn't be definitive where we give them no leeway.
Mhm.
It does need to have a little bit of both.
Fair.
Because there's going to be the time when you've excluded something that is an unintended consequence to somebody who's done it a certain way.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think, I guess to your point about, what if the views in the foyer and everything, I might be wrong because I don't have as much design experience and viewing houses experience as you guys, but I would be kind of shocked if I bought a house with the money view and I could only see it from my foyer and not,
Likely it would be.
right? So hopefully it would be taken advantage of in more places that would be covered by this, but I do see what you're saying. And it would be nice if there was a more objective way to identify and clarify design intent within a house so that you can cover that, but I don't know if there is.
was the intent that you didn't necessarily want us to go up actually and need to look in the inside of house to save time? Or, because it seems like I think what we found was we really only, maybe we had an idea of what we thought we were going to see, and we actually got there and it was maybe different, like, oh yeah, I get it. Why they wanted, right? I mean,
Although at least in only the 2 years that I've been here,
Yeah.
it's only one that actually, right? Every other one said,
well, that's,
you don't have a protected.
that's true, actually. It was the one,
Like, oh, wow.
but yeah, that was, and it was the one where I thought, oh no, this is not gonna,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
you're right.
At the risk of starting a tangent, I think a lot of these would be solved if story poles were up at the very beginning, because, you know, when you take a picture out of a window and we don't know where that is, and we're like,
True.
well, where exactly is that? But if the story poles are already up and they can reference a floor plan, I feel like that makes it a lot safer for us to make the decisions without having to look
Okay, so
inside.
that might come up in that later.
Yeah, retracting from
Yeah.
that, but yeah.
Okay, so, but maybe, does the language that the director recommended still provide us with the leeway?
Yeah,
I think so.
I mean, there's still the leeway. It
Yeah.
just means that, okay,
They'll have
sometimes
to
it's
make
gonna be
their
an
case to-
uncomfortable argument for one or both.
The case has to be made. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna be able to be black and white here.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm okay.
we've not backed down from telling them they don't have a protected
No,
view.
no.
Mhm.
Only once did we agree with the.
And nor have they appealed to city council, and city council has backed us down on it either.
Right.
So I don't.
Yeah.
We're losing much.
Is staff okay with I mean, you recommended those 2 words. I like.
What was it again? I'm sorry, I
Sure.
forgot.
Was, and it's on the screen here, so the sentence that we modified to revise it to say, primary indoor living areas include and are limited to living rooms, dining rooms, and family rooms, and exclude kitchens, bathrooms, bedrooms, dens, stairwells, and entryways.
What about
Bedroom.
includes and excludes, I don't want to say small kitchens. I guess what I was thinking of was living rooms, eating areas, and family rooms. Do we have to talk about a kitchen?
Okay, dining rooms, eating areas versus
People-
dining
Eating-
room.
People eat in their kitchens though.
I know,
Yeah.
but if it's if I know, well,
Oh, that would
That
be
would-
a line between
that would-
like a bar
Kitchen.
attached to the kitchen and then like a space where you put a table that you sit.
Or a big
Right.
island,
Right.
kitchen island,
My kitchen
5
island.
seats
That's,
overlooking a big window.
uh-huh.
And this is the issue we run into when we try to be too
I know.
prescriptive.
Mhm.
I think the intent here for view preservation, and I can only guess as I wasn't here, is it was intended to protect views for places where people are spending their most time, right? Like your front door example or foyer, you're not, pulling up a chair and sitting in your foyer. Your living areas, which is these primary indoor living areas, are the places you're sitting and spending your time and recreating and using the space. It was intended that those spaces that had views maintain their views. These ancillary spaces where you're not spending your time, or like a bedroom where maybe most of your time is sleeping when you're in there, is not the primary focus of this view protection.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm not alone when I say I spend 4% of my time in the dining room and 88% of my time in the kitchen.
I was going to say the irony there is that 2 of those rooms, dining rooms and living rooms, are not used. Kitchens are far more used by when you go to a party, you go to the kitchen. Everyone's in the kitchen. That's why the great room has become such a big design feature in the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah, but that you're seeing a lot of larger window. You may have the window over, but really it's more.
Yeah, but they designed that window over the sink to have a view.
Okay.
I'm just saying, in my world, I see it all the time. I want to be sitting there washing my dishes, and I want to look out at this. I want to look out at that. It's not just like, oh, there has to be a window there. It's
Okay.
very intentional.
Well, would you all like to not make any of the changes and leave it from primary indoor living areas and subjective?
I was okay with it the way it's written.
I
I can argue all day long.
Could we say primary living areas
yeah.
exclude, and then just say what it's excluding?
Well,
That
it's
would,
bathrooms and bedrooms.
Bathrooms, bedrooms, stairwells, entryway.
Yeah,
that definitely.
yeah,
Right.
maybe that's better.
Better.
Okay, so it would be revised to read, and Mill Canyon from primary indoor living areas excluding bathrooms, dens, stairwells, and entryways
And bedroom.
Bedrooms.
and bedrooms.
Bedrooms, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Nope.
think bedrooms. Yeah.
Okay,
That works.
Okay.
Yeah.
are we in agreement?
Done.
I'm gonna
Done.
read it one more time for our note.
Okay, next one. That's one down, 7 to go.
Feels like this.
Let me just read it one more
Yes,
time for our diligent note takers. So primary indoor living areas excluding bathrooms, dens, bedrooms, stairwells, and entryways.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect.
The next item was under the housing element category, and it was related to the incentives menu. I know we had some discussion at the December 8th meeting on setbacks in particular, and I think there was some good conversation about why a 0 setback or a 5-foot setback might be problematic. I'll make a proposal. It's probably not well thought out, but the proposal would be reduce setbacks, an up to 10-foot reduction to the required setback. The reduction can be used on multiple setbacks, but cannot exceed 5 feet for any one setback. So in other words, they still get the 10 feet, but they can't use all 10 feet on the front yard. They would have to split the 10 feet. They can only use 5 feet on the front yard, and they can use the other 5 remaining on the sides or the rear. Or any comment, like something along those lines that where we just say, yeah, they can have setback reductions in the back of the property or in the sides, but don't make it a 0 or a 5-foot lot line on the.
Oh, I was just going to say, so to be clear, this incentive, this would be used, what is the smallest type of building we would expect to see these incentives? Would it be duplexes? Would it be like 5, 6 level apartments or?
Could be anything. The problem.
That's really, single unit dwellings, this is not going to apply
Okay,
to.
yeah.
Duplexes, this isn't going to apply to. They're not building affordable units, right? It really is once you start including affordable units, these are
Right.
your larger residential projects.
R2.
Even 5 or 6 is, I think you have to have 10 units to trigger the
Okay.
requirement to include. And usually it's at that point, once they're including affordable units to offset the cost, you're talking
Yeah.
bigger project.
I'm just wondering at that point, I guess it would help to understand what the typical setbacks would be. I think I'm fine with the setbacks going down, right? I think maybe if we were going to do that, would it be helpful to then increase the budget of setback reduction that they could have from 10 to
15.
15 or?
Oh, no.
Yeah, the other way to talk about it would be.
Well, if it's a minimum, right? Or
The other way to consider it is that no individual setback could be more than 30% of the existing setback. So if the existing setback's 15 feet, you can reduce it by 4.5 feet and no more. If the side setback is 4 feet, you can reduce it by 1.2 feet and no more. You know what I mean? So you can, because otherwise you're going to end up with one of the setback. If they decide to go for all of it on one of the setbacks, it's still going to make somebody upset, the rear yard neighbor or the. So if we say you have 10 or 15 feet, but you can't reduce any one setback by more than 30%, that could be another way to manage it a little bit.
Can we gauge the pulse? I'm sorry, Commissioner Fat.
Sorry.
Can we gauge the pulse on your first recommendation for incentive menu number 1, which I've got up on the screen, to revise that to say an up to 10-foot reduction to the required setbacks. The reduction can be used on one or multiple setbacks, but cannot exceed 10 feet total or more than 5 feet for any given setback.
Yeah, that was the original idea.
How do
But
we
I'm just,
feel?
how does that work though if the side setback is 5 feet?
Right.
They can go to 0 lot line?
So typically with like a 5-foot side setback, there are building code and fire code requirements for access that aren't gonna really let them go beyond that because fire needs to get by the building, draw hoses. So fire code's not gonna let them go less than anyways.
Okay. So there's other control that would.
Yes, there's design and construction and fire and building codes that provide guardrails.
So,
To let them do higher
yeah.
and wider.
So
Go ahead.
did you want to go on? So I altogether, I also thought of that as a last ditch, but I I look at the conversation we just had with the last applicant about lack of landscaping. That took a half an hour. And I feel so strongly that this is a damaging incentive. 5 is better, a maximum of 5, yep, or 30% is better than this. But I think for our image as the city of trees, and we are given the choice of parking reduction, which already, by the way, happens in most, right? In most areas of town because we're so small. And these concentric circles around our transit have made it such that there is no parking requirement anyway. So why not use that one then rather than incentivize, advertise it, promote it as, well, this is okay with us. To me, this is saying, it's an incentive. We can live with that. I don't know that we can live with that unless we're forced to. I think we could live with the fact that there's a parking reduction of maybe whatever is a standard of 1-to-1 rather than I don't even have now 1-to-1. We could live with that. It's not damaging. There's ways to mitigate with I don't know, what we also just discussed, the parking, space trading and leasing and all this stuff. That is not a damaging aspect, whereas the other, it is, you can't go backward. I think it's so important to keep. So,
So what was the rationale for choosing these two versus?
Yeah, the policy says we have to do the height increase and the reduced setback or reduced parking. And so there isn't a clearly strong staff recommendation to do setback versus parking. If the planning commission would rather not do a reduced setback and do a reduced parking, that's completely fine. I think Commissioner Pfaff threw out a 1-for-1, so 1 parking space for each unit. And I believe that's an acceptable ratio.
I think.
I mean, if in the future this comes back, then we can, and we have to. I mean, we don't know which way this is going to go, and they say everybody's got to reduce their setbacks. Then we start talking about, okay, we can do the equation. But why are we doing that now when we have the choice to do reduced parking that you don't see? I don't think you see it as you do. It doesn't affect our image and our aesthetic and our health, actually. So.
Yeah, I think we have had some projects come where neighbors have been up in arms around the parking situation. So that probably wouldn't be a popular move for those areas. But I could also see the developer having to make a tough choice because having no parking for his future clients is not a really good commercial marketable thing. So they're going to have to decide to make the trade-off on how much they want to take advantage of.
Right. And it's a 1-to-1. She's not saying, right? So
I think that's pretty good. Yep.
I prefer that one, setbacks, because just like we said, we've seen recent projects where setbacks damaging the quality of a project, the quality of an area.
Okay.
And you can't do that.
So to substitute the setback incentive for a 1-to-1 parking
reduction. So a reduced parking incentive, which is a 1-to-1 parking reduction. One space for each unit.
Okay.
Just to be clear about the 1-to-1.
Excellent. Okay, so now we are shifting to the third category, permit and process amendments. So the first was around making or eliminating the optional study session. We did talk about this on December 8th. And the idea is I think it's covered in 2 different areas in the revisions. One is that at the discretion of the director, they could still recommend a study session. So it's not that study sessions are not allowed, it's that they're not mandatory, right? So if staff sees the design that says this is nowhere near ready, they could still say you should go to a study session. If the staff thinks that it's ready to come to action, we could always continue it. So it doesn't mean we're only going to get one bite at the apple by eliminating this. So I was okay with it. Does everyone?
I agree.
I just had a question about that. So if we are, yeah, that part, eliminating that, I guess I was just wondering if we continue a meeting
Mhm.
and I mean, I'm sure your staff would not recommend them coming back if they hadn't changed much. I'm going to assume that they would, but let's say they're inclined to ignore the staff and just come anyway. So how many times would they be, I mean, are we allowed to say no? I guess,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
They
that's,
came the second time and they didn't listen to us.
Okay.
We'd reject.
that's the part I was wondering about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they could appeal it to the city council.
Yeah.
Or they'd have to come back for.
Okay. That was just what it was.
Correct.
Clarifying. Okay, thanks.
I think that would be interesting.
I think we've,
It doesn't happen often.
But it doesn't happen very.
This
No.
this is typical in other cities, and in my career, that hasn't happened often. Most applicants are very cooperative with staff. They do want to come to one hearing and get, planning commission's endorsement forward. Very rare that they're digging heels and not wanting to be cooperative.
The next was removing the design review consultant. Again, there was a clarification after the meeting from the city attorney regarding liability. I think the argument last time, which I do see as a concern for an applicant, is the cost when they don't realize that it was going to add up to, thousands of dollars that they didn't really have control over the spend on, because we told them they had to use this person, and then they got hit with a $5,000 bill when their own architect might have done it because they screwed up the first time. So I'm still inclined to go along with this and remove the requirement for a design review consultant.
I think the one potential downside is how much time we're going to spend up here on a failed design.
Or staff.
Or staff, right? If staff does it, then it might not be failed by the time it gets here. If staff doesn't do it and it gets here, you're only going to get a third of what you really want to get out of that in a public hearing.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't, not all of the design review solutions that have come back have been fabulous
Right.
either. So it's a mixed bag on whether or not it's going to work. And, somebody's going to get pissed off and say, I'm tired of going to 5 meetings. Well, you're not doing a good enough job.
And they're just going to have
Fire
to.
Right. Because my view is, as an architect, all you have to do is watch a few meetings and look at the designs that have been approved, and you'll get a feel for what it should be, right? It's not rocket science.
Well, and that book is far more clear than most other cities
Yes.
of what it is we
Mhm.
desire.
Sides, yeah, right.
Yeah, and I get the feeling that at every recurring application, the staff would be like, you guys should really look at this handy book we have called Design Guidelines. Do these other obvious things, hopefully, but yeah.
Mhm.
Everyone's okay with.
Yeah, I'm okay. I just feel bad for staff that if it's on them to have to like,
We're fine. This is what happens in every city, right? So most cities do not have this design review consultant, and we work with staff behind, or applicants behind the scene all the time to get them to adhere to even just the standard regulations. So this is part of our review process.
Thank you.
I don't think it'll be bad as everyone thinks.
I don't think so, because we really only had in 2 years, we have like 2 or 3 that really didn't know what the heck they were doing. Out of,
I think
100.
worse off is they're having people that are doing a poor application of their design and their houses look lousy.
Well, I think that's right.
There's a lot of
That's
lousy.
another topic for a future meeting, I think.
yeah,
Yeah, I think you're right.
that's true.
Disappointed with some of the things.
So am I.
No, that's actually really true, and that's really good. That's a good item for discussion
Yeah.
or when we talk about standards or whatever.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
The next was minor applications, so master signage programs. Are you happy that that's a staff and a director decision? Great. The next was, okay, so this was just something that came to me when I reread all the changes, which is the story poles. Because I don't know that we've ever I don't think we've ever not required somebody to go back and install story poles if they raise the roof.
Just in the hillside.
Just in the hillside overlay zone. It just seems like They're wasting their time if they don't, and then they comes to us and we say, well, gotta install story poles, and then they've added another.
That's really true. In the meeting, and they've added meetings and costs, so, and they should know just cost-wise, I don't know what it costs to erect story poles, but it's probably not cheap.
Right.
A few $1,000s.
It's 25.70.030 E. There-
Correct. I have it up on the screen.
So it just requires you to change one word, I think. It's may be required.
Will be required.
It should be will be required or are required.
And like I was saying, I think a lot of times that we get people coming to us asking about like views and stuff, it would be like most usually solved if they already had the story pulls up and they could see, oh, it does or does not objectively impact my view. And then that saves everyone lots of time.
So this section, and Catherine, jump in if I'm not covering what you're saying. This section is in the hillside area construction permit.
Mm-hmm.
Not every hillside area construction permit has a view impact or a potential view impact where we say may be required to help visualize, because every proposed addition or new structure isn't going to have it. So it's really going to be us assessing is where they're proposing it and how much have a potential view impact, then we will require them to do story pole.
Maybe second story addition is the wording. 'Cause-
But sometimes even first story additions may have view impacts. So this is where it gets
but
kind of a little
I-
subjective.
Is my property. At a
I'm sorry, say that again.
single level, if I were just pushing out 5 feet on the same level, I don't know that you have a right to prevent that. But if I want to build a second story and I'm downhill from you, then yes, I am creating a view obstacle.
So, yeah. So is it, so, I hear you, Director. So is the wording then, wherever a view might be impacted, story poles will be required? In other words, like, you guys make the determination that, oh, there could be a view impact here, and therefore require them to put up story poles before it comes to the commission.
So the
Is-
prior language, which is up on the screen shown as strikeout, was that it was prior to filing an application. So before they even filed an application, they were encouraged to install story poles. So it wasn't even, it was just like we encourage, right? This is very, and it would come to planning commission, and planning commission would then require the installation of story poles. We strengthened this a little bit and took it out of prior to an application and said in review of the application. So through the application review process, story poles may be required to help visualize. And it's challenging because ultimately the planning commission, upon its decision and review of the application at the hearing, is making that view determination, right? So
I just feel like anyone that's gonna have a potential view impact, we're gonna tell them put up story poles, and then you're
Right.
gonna have to come back to another meeting.
And we can do that. This allows us to then say, you have potential view impact, but prior to going to planning commission, we'd like you to erect
I think that would,
poles.
do you guys agree?
And we can do that with
You could-
this
You
language.
could do that as a staff directive
Yeah.
as opposed to code enforcement.
Correct.
True.
So my recommendation would keep the language this way, and we recognize and know that when we're reviewing the application, right, as it says in the review of the application, we're requiring it when there is a potential view impact. So
May be required means that you may require it as the director
correct,
before it comes to us,
correct.
and you will.
And so,
Great.
correct.
That's fine. I'm good.
And not to dig my heels in, but I do know there's other communities in Southern California where you can't even apply without story poles erected. And
Correct.
To get a sense of.
Absolutely. And then my other argument to that is I just think there's such a small population in this dense community of Burlingame where there's not a tiny chance of a view obstruction in the hillside. I hear your point that there are some that is none. But that's a very small population, in my opinion.
Like the
And there are
on a-
some,
we like what if I
Even the ones that don't have it.
I would not have
Come
thought
out.
that was the one we were gonna say
No,
right? It was
absolutely.
down the
I
hill.
remember that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And, so you get you remember the pergola issue with those folks?
yeah.
If you are going to get a permit, you have to erect these poles. That's how this
Yeah.
in-laws community does it. it's more of an HOA requirement than a city requirement,
Mhm.
but they have to, just to even apply, there have to be story poles up.
And it's almost like noticing your neighbors, right? With
Mhm.
the 500-foot radius or whatever, 300 radius. Part of the noticing requirement is almost like, show us what you're doing with the story poles.
And I respect the cost, but the problem is you're talking about bigger costs if you do destroy someone's view. I mean, $5,000-$10,000 of story poles versus $1 million.
Also bigger cost to have the architect go way deep in their design.
Absolutely.
To say, nope, it's not.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Do it all.
that's true too.
But, yeah. Anyway, I'm okay with the way it's written. I just, like I said, when I read this, I
Yeah,
thought of.
And we understand
Have
the
the
importance.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay, that's fair.
Yes, and if we don't do our job, you are always welcome to require it at the meeting.
Great. Just two more. So, does anyone have concerns about allowing non-conforming structures to get rebuilt as long as they don't exacerbate the issue? So this is when they
Yeah.
demolish 50% and they realize the whole foundation is crumbling and they've got to redo the foundation.
Well, I don't like it, but I understand what she's saying. Because sometimes there's not a lot left, but
Design's already been
yeah.
done and the plans were approved, right? So
Yeah.
so the way I look at it, we've already reviewed it and approved it, right? Even though it's non-conforming. And then while they're constructing it, the wall falls down. Does that mean they have to come back and redesign it or get we've already approved it with that non-conformance.
Well, and if they demolish it, their non-conforming rights go away, and so then they have to conform to the standards or apply for a variance in cases we've then required them to apply for a variance, but they're not really
And they're
meeting the variance requirement.
ground.
Anyway, and then they're gonna come back and ask for the variance.
Typically.
Right, so either way, like, or during or after the process gets muddied, staff's assessment of this is a situation where the setback requirements are things to mitigate adverse effects to adjacent neighbors. These are cases where they have had a wall in that location already that's been in existence, right? That non-conforming setback has been there. And so they are not, a new setback or a new wall that is closer or different than what they had already been experienced isn't occurring. It's just a new wall in that same location. So the kind of experience of the neighbor is the same because we're not allowing them to expand or exacerbate it. And then we're running into these construction cases where there's issues with the wall, it needs to come down, or they need to modify it more, or we're trying to figure out how to work around it, or it's too late. And so can we make this exception to allow, if you've got a wall that exists in a non-conforming setback location, that they can keep it even if they are doing remodel renovations or construction to their building?
Does it say that it has to be previously permitted?
It has to be legal non-conforming. So yes, it does. It has to have
I
been.
can't build a shed along the side and then say, okay.
10 years later.
non-conforming.
Has to be legal non-conforming.
I mean-
No, you're right. 100% right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would-
Correct.
Non-conforming is illegal.
Correct. It has to be legal non-conforming, meaning that it had to be permitted through the city.
Okay.
So legal non-conforming. So that means it could go back many, many, many years. Someone could have made it legal. Is that what you're saying? So
I'm sorry, say that again.
not quite. I'm sort of not quite understanding what that means. So,
The house was built 70 years ago. and
yeah,
non-conforming.
but it had a permit.
So
Yeah, it was built legal.
committees can arise over time when zoning regulations
Change.
change.
Okay. I see.
Something's built at that time that conforms to the standards. We change the standards and now it becomes a legal non-conforming.
Okay, so I actually then misunderstood the way this was. So that's interesting. So it could, as he was saying, someone couldn't have built on their own, which happens. I mean,
Sure.
happened in the last 50 years. In our neighborhood, oh boy. They built their own garage. They didn't know where the property line was,
Mhm.
and it's over in the wrong place. You're not saying that because there was never probably,
Not legally constructed.
right. Thank you. Okay.
How do we how do we know that though? Because
Rec-
a 70-year-old house, I'm not thinking has plans.
We have really good building permit.
Uh-huh, yeah.
It comes down to the permits plan,
Mhm.
say, and if it's like really, really old, maybe they weren't even tracking that heavily on the permits in the first place.
We have Sanborn maps. There's a variety of
True.
historic documents that we have that we can verify. But our building permit records are actually very
Mhm.
well kept here.
Does that make?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
that makes me more comfortable. Mhm.
Okay, we're down to one more. Plate. So the proposal from staff was to increase plate height by 6 inches. The rationale was about kind of standard building practices, stud lengths. They've got to go above and beyond to get it to 9 feet versus allowing them to go to 9.3 or 9.6. Yeah, I've always been a little bit more liberal on plate heights than some of my colleagues. I kind of think of it in a different way. These are applicants who are paying $2 million for dirt. And they want to build a nice house in a very expensive neighborhood. 6 inches, I don't think is going to destroy our, aesthetic on the exterior, and it makes the houses more livable and more.
I agree. Yeah, and you're putting yourself up against the upper echelon of our communities, Menlo Park, Atherton, Hillsborough, which allow 10-foot plate heights.
We used to.
Well,
If we had bigger lots, I would.
Yeah, no, it does. It's a function of lot.
I'm not saying to make it unlimited, but I think a 9.6 is a happy medium. I don't think there's a degradation too much to the exterior aesthetic, which is really what we care about at 9'6".
I think where it becomes challenging is in Burlingame Village, where you're already below the floodplain on your lot, and you're building up 4 to 5 feet to get to first plate height, or first finished floor, so that you can be that foot or whatever it is above the flood zone. And it's a narrow lot, and you've now just shot it up.
Yeah, that's
So, do I think most places it's gonna matter? No, agreed. There's just those few that we were getting for a while, which is why we went to this kind of
that's a good point. I guess I thought that the max height would govern that a little bit. Like you still have 30 feet max, right?
Mm-mm.
The height of that property. So unless we approve a special permit.
I think most,
So, yeah,
well, no, because you can go, it's not a max height, it's 30 feet, but you can get up to 36 depending on how your lot goes.
Yeah, and if
where
you have a stoop, that's absolutely right. Yeah, it's true.
I don't know that I see too many of them breaking the 30 as much as it's just tall, skinny, and
yeah, I've seen a few of them. You're right.
and just look wacky.
But we could always make those comments, that, yeah, you're
Mhm.
allowed to build 9.6, but the house looks a little wacky. You might want to.
Well, and that was, so the compromise being that if you had to ask,
Right.
then you had to ask. Whereas if
But
you
every time-
raise it, you don't
yeah.
have to ask, and you expect,
Right.
and then they're gonna ask for 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. Either way, we're gonna have to guard top.
How about, so I guess the way I'm looking at it is it's new construction versus, because I understand you're all in the building, not you necessarily, but the building trades and understand how buildings are put together. So I understand that. And I actually have an old house, and it is, as a matter of fact, downstairs, because I finally measured it, is 9.5. It is. So I get that that it turns into a pain if you're trying to add on or do something. But if you're starting brand new, and we really were getting these they looked on steroids, these homes that were so big. That's why I really did like I preferred pushing them down. They do look better. I think they look better. I mean, when I go around and look in the neighborhoods and see ones that have been approved since that happened, I think everything looks a little more in proportion to each other somehow, and not trying to be something that it's, a Hillsborough house on a Burlingame lot or whatever. So I was fine the way it was, but I do understand when it's an older house, it makes it very expensive to, I'm guessing that's the reason, to kind of tweak it. So the second part, so it works. Then we had the weird thing with the garages.
Garage is always
Sometimes,
great.
which I don't really understand. It's okay. I believe you.
But that one I have less. issue
Yeah,
with.
no, I don't think we've ever had a heartache about that.
Yeah.
That
So
one
I don't know.
through every time.
Yes.
So I don't know, maybe it can go in as maybe this can go in as we discussed it and have various opinions, or I don't know.
I'm okay with where we're going. I'm just, there's just going to be spots where
Yeah.
Still gonna have to
it's gonna get missed.
make our,
Yeah.
yeah.
People are gonna make poor decisions, and you can't stop them from making poor decisions, and there's no way to write this that it's foolproof.
Right.
What about, can I say something? What about, so where a house does become 36 feet, so because you're starting higher, like, and I am in one of those, because I have a stoop. What about it kicks in when for it, they can do the 9.5 if they're low down, but it kicks in when it's raised, I don't know what the word is, or, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it just gets exasperated by 6 feet.
Yeah, but then that's gonna go crazy because some lots are sloped.
Oh.
And then where do you take that measurement from? It's just like our height now is challenged. When you're sitting
there's
there
the
on the
uphill
average
and a
top of
curve.
curb and your house sits on a sideways hill.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and we always say,
So
no, we
it's-
understand that as well, so, yeah.
Okay.
I'm also, yeah, I guess there's also the option of doing 9.6 and 8 versus 9.6 and 8.6. Because on the second floor, you do have the opportunity for.
Oh, yes,
Mhm.
that's a good idea.
So you could still get the appearance of a
And it's,
higher
you've only,
ceiling on the
Yeah,
second
but-
floor.
or,
But for the same reason you're proposing the 9.6, I
Yeah.
agree with the 8.6
Yeah.
too, in a way, because you actually can't, you don't do an 8-foot plate and then get an 8-foot ceiling. You do an 8-foot ceiling and you have an 8-foot 1.5.
And you're right, and architecturally, you can have fix on the second floor by dropping the eaves on the roof line, so you'd not even know that it's there. So we're okay, maybe there's a dissent, that's okay too.
no,
We can-
it's, I'm not, I don't understand enough about building to consent. I just don't want to go back to what we had before because it was not good,
Okay.
the steroid house,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, I think
So-
we can make a,
Landed at,
just leaving as.
Leave it
staff
as
proposed.
proposed, okay. Are there any other
Yeah, did I miss it?
discussions?
Fix it?
You had a really good list. Did we hit them all?
No,
That was it, yeah.
That was, thank you
Had
for
great-
organizing so well.
my two have been great.
Okay, good. All right, now you just have to make a
Can we put
proposed
the
motion.
back up?
Yeah.
I'm going to put something, Tamara, I know you're jumping in to do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that
Puppet master.
we huddle for like 3 minutes to make sure we have our ducks in a row and then put some language up for the
Sure.
commission to take a look at.
Sure, are you okay with a 5-minute recess?
Yes.
Of course.
That means
Yeah.
that I don't have to make.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that was good.
I'm
Thank you.
really glad
Thank you.
you had him all organized. That's really, thank you for doing that.
Much appreciated.
It's just a lot, like that was a lot of.
Lot of
documents, a lot of
stuff.
fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, the state mandates and.
Because I wasn't feeling any love in any of that.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
like anything that the state's doing.
well, even the letter that they sent, did you read that late breaker letter?
I did see that, yeah.
That was pretty strong.
It was very, yeah, they're always very strong.
Yeah,
I didn't feel
yeah, you look in the, it was from Ruben this afternoon.
It was the second supplemental. Yeah.
Oh,
State, and it's like your
Mhm.
proposed amendments are still not.
Was it the nonprofit?
Oh, it might have been the nonprofit
Yeah,
on behalf of.
I think they're the same people who
No.
like for non-compliance or something.
oh, I don't.
Ruben's
I-
got it.
Oh, this is really. No, I didn't see that.
No, I think
It was just one item though,
Yeah,
parking.
It's because you go to the.
Yeah.
yeah, it was a parking. You can't apply any parking requirements on ADUs.
With
Oh,
the
that was-
understanding we already weren't doing.
But it's somehow in the wording, it was not
I see.
crisp enough. Actually,
I thought our ADUs required an on-site uncovered space.
Not anymore.
Anymore.
Because I remember that one, like, weird triangular parcel by the park, and there were two ADUs there because it was duplex. I
Yes.
don't remember them requiring parking, because there was already relatively,
They
scarce
might have
parking on
gotten
them.
though an exception because of where they are.
I don't remember that. I was under the assumption, because you're also converting garages into ADUs as well, which of course, obviously, for the parking.
Good point, and that was already covered, I think.
Yeah, so
from that.
I thought it was already covered.
Yeah.
See that, so like when we allow the, when we have a one-car apron at best, and now that garage, which hasn't really been used as a garage for years.
Yeah.
But we're now making it an ADU and now inviting some kid or teacher or somebody to live there on top of the 4 cars that we already have, not in the driveway.
Yeah, but they're taking the train.
Riding an e-bike.
They're taking Waymo.
Or a teacher, walking, to one of the Burlingame schools.
Ideally, I
In
mean,
my
that would be.
neighbors, I think there's 12.
Thanks,
In my,
It's an extra.
No, we've got an issue. We.
Every street's an issue in Burlingame with parking.
Yeah.
and now, week, we're getting the email that somebody's torn it off.
Oh, great.
What amazes me though is, like, we have 4 kids, unfortunately.
And then
Cars, but we jockey cars constantly, they keep them in the driveway. Not all of them, but
Yeah.
2 or 3 of them. Other neighbors never park in their driveway.
Always in the street.
They've got 3 cars, the driveway is wide open, never park.
It's weird, right?
Yeah,
It's like, why would you want to go through you car getting hit?
yeah,
And think the
I
streets
want
sweeper
all of our
are
cars
pretty-
in the driveway if we.
Yeah,
I agree.
Garbage day is a real
Oh,
problem.
yeah.
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 Garbage.
Have to be jockeying the day before, to make sure that something out there, to make sure that I'll have room.
That's
Yes, we do this. It's a game. It's so funny.
Because my neighbors are not nice.
It's not nice, it's just like, considerate.
Yeah.
Well, so not only do they have too many cars, they park in their own drive, in front of their own drives, parallel on the street,
Mhm.
which then
Oh,
we can't back out of our driveway.
Oh, like they blocked driveways.
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
unfortunately, we do not have a double wide driveway.
I see.
Ours is just
No,
enough
so
for
was-
that.
so was ours, yeah.
It's just
Single
enough for
wide.
this car.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's,
Oh, and it's like,
and then when 2
Back to
people
back,
then
that's-
go straight on us, there's nowhere to go.
Mhm.
Yep.
We're ready whenever.
thank you.
Hey, planning commissioners, in anticipation for what it sounds like is a consensus, we've revised this recommendation for this item, including the specific amendments you've just tonight.
Right.
So whoever would like to make the motion, if you could read this, then it's read into the record and we'll revise accordingly.
Thank you. Who would like to read the motion?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we recommend approval of this amendment, including section 25.48.30.E.10 to state statewide exemption ADUs if an ADU or JDADU does not exist or is not proposed pursuant to subsection E8 or E9 above. Any of the following will be ministerially permitted on a parcel and is not subject to subsection F and H below. Revised 25.33.30.C.1 to read, reduced parking. The parking requirement shall be one parking space per unit. Revised 25.20.40B to read, view preservation. Hillside development shall be designed to preserve existing distant views. View preservation shall be limited to the obstruction of distant views of San Francisco Bay, San Francisco Airport, and Mills Canyon from primary indoor living areas, excluding kitchens, bathrooms, dens, stairwells, entryways, and
Bed-
bedrooms.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You read it into the record.
Yes. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
And sorry, very quickly, just for clarity, this motion, does this motion also include, and I assume it does, but for the record, adoption of the resolution included in the supplemental packet posted today with the amendments that you just read into the record?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have a motion by Commissioner Schmidt, a second by Commissioner Lowenthal. Any discussion on the motion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Lowenthal,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shores,
Aye.
Chair Haran.
Aye, the motion passes 5001. Thank
very
you.
much.
Appreciate it.
Very much for the work.
Agenda item number 9, staff and commission reports. Are there any commissioner reports? I don't have a report, but I just wanted to follow up maybe on in a future meeting to what Commissioner Schmidt brought up. I do see the same thing, even projects we've approved in the last couple of years, the as-built version of what we approved, something is occasionally lost in translation. And so it would just be an interesting conversation to see how do we go about assessing that and getting more specific on the areas where maybe the contractors are not following the design intent exactly. The thing that comes to mind for me is windows. I don't know if we still have the right spec for windows. But also I've seen landscaping that doesn't quite.
It's gone. It's
Yeah.
not there.
Anyway, don't have to get into it here, but it would be good. It might even be good for a kind of field trip at some point for staff and commissioners to go around to half a dozen projects that might illustrate those to kind of have a show and tell on what we can do better. Staff, do you have anything else to share?
Oh, can I?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
There's another future item.
Yes.
I think that we saw several today where people have started and done work without permit. And there were several other items that I think are going unnoticed on the projects this evening that were done without permit, likely. And so this is one of those things where I feel like we're getting closer to a point again where people are doing things and taking actions without getting approval and then expecting that we will just say, it's okay, because we don't want you to rip it out. And it happens every few years where they decide to make changes and don't come back and get approvals. And then they say, well, you're not gonna make me tear it out. I felt like the two today were that too. So I don't know if that's something we should be talking about in the future on how to strengthen some of that. Because there isn't really a penalty. There isn't a way that otherwise doesn't make them rip it out and then make everybody look terrible.
Even a fine that goes to the beautification committee or something, you know? Okay, great. Yeah, we can have that as. Yeah.
And it happens. But it takes the occasional example, which it would have been an ugly one to do this evening.
Yeah.
But those are the ones that then expect that we are going to roll over.
It's also very hard when it's a built, like a built project.
Yeah.
It's how do you do that? And I don't know if we've ever done that before, but probably been tempted. Can't remember. Have you done that before? Yeah. Before I came in?
I've been reminded that we've made developers rip off entire roofs
Oh.
because they didn't do it right. Yes.
We had one where we had them add a lot of detail, remember?
Oh, yeah, the detail,
Yeah.
adding stuff.
Back multiple times.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Okay,
That's-
thank you.
Thank you.
Staff, do you have anything here?
We do not.
The meeting is adjourned at 9:28.
Thank
Do you know the famous one in Memphis, City Square? They built like 30 feet too high and the city made